Welcome back, cell groups. Can you believe we are halfway through the book of Daniel? This week is the last chapter in the historical section of the book of Daniel. The next 6 chapters get a little crazy, so hold on to your seats. As always, I want to chat with you for a few minutes about this week's chapter, then we'll dive into some questions designed to help your cell group have a great time discussing the ideas and concepts found in this chapter. So here we go. We finally arrived at Daniel chapter 6. This is perhaps one of the most famous stories in the Bible. Babylon had now come under the rule of the Median Empire under King Darius. Due to the wisdom and integrity of Daniel, he had found favor with King Darius, similar to the favor he experienced with King Nebuchadnezzar. In fact, Daniel was in a position to be given authority over all presidents and satraps of the land. By the way, a satrap was a provincial governor. Yeah, I was wondering what the heck a satrap was too. Due to our fallen human nature, one of the things we can struggle with is jealousy. So did these guys. The fellow presidents and satraps devised a wicked scheme to get rid of Daniel. They manipulated King Darius to make a new law that if anyone bows down or worships anything other than King Darius, they were to be executed by being fed to hungry lions. Knowing that Daniel would not follow this law, of course his reputation preceded him, they had him set up to be arrested and executed by finding him bowing down and praying to the God of Israel. Okay, let's think about what we would have done if we were in Daniel's shoes. Hearing about this edict from the king, we would be facing a huge dilemma. Do we bow down and worship the king as an idol so we can save our own skin, or do we continue to pray to the living God of Israel at the risk of being arrested and executed? Needless to say, there's a lot at stake here. I know many of us have had to face similar situations in our personal lives. Maybe you've been told to keep all the God stuff to yourself at your workplace or you'll be fired. Perhaps you've been confronted with a choice that if you choose to go all in and follow Jesus, you'll know you'll lose friendships that have been very important in your life. It may not be as severe as Daniel's predicament, but we're constantly confronted with how we're going to respond to those moral dilemmas. You'll notice that when Daniel heard of the edict from King Darius, his response was to immediately bow down and pray to the living God. It doesn't say he freaked out. He didn't become paralyzed in fear. He simply prayed. If there's one thing we can learn through this whole series of the book of Daniel, it is the higher the stakes, the greater the need to pray. In Daniel 6:10 it says, when Daniel knew that the document had been signed, he went to his house where he had windows in the upper chamber open toward Jerusalem. He got down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he had done previously. I don't know about you, but if I was in Daniel's shoes, I don't know how thankful I'd be. But the key is found in the last 5 words of verse 10, as he had done previously. That means this was a habit of Daniel's. It was ingrained in his spiritual character. Just as God had delivered his friends from the fiery furnace, Daniel trusted God and thanked him in advance for the opportunity to be tested again in this new situation with King Darius. Do we have that same kind of faith and trust in God? What Daniel had learned is the more intense the challenge, the greater the opportunity for God to show up and bring glory to himself. In 2 Timothy 4:16 and 17, the Apostle Paul said, "At my first defense, no one came to stand by me, but all deserted me. May it not be charged against them, but the Lord stood by me and strengthened me, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed and all the Gentiles might hear it. So I was rescued from the lion's mouth." What a passage. Paul acknowledged that the Lord never abandoned him in his deepest trials. Daniel had the same resolve. Ultimately, Daniel and Paul had a deep conviction that carried them through all their challenges, even as they stared into the face of death. They both lived for a different kingdom than what this world has to offer. Daniel could be consumed by a lion, and Paul was facing execution by the Roman Empire, but nothing could separate them from the promise of the kingdom of heaven. There's a great passage in 1 Corinthians 15:42. So it is with the resurrection of the dead. What is sown is perishable, what is raised is imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. Wow. This is the same steely resolve that we need to face any difficult challenge in our life. How can we be thankful in prayer like Daniel in any situation? We need to have the same eternal perspective and hope. Let's be thankful for Daniel's godly character that gives us a model to be followed by God's grace. Well, okay, what an exciting chapter to go through. The questions I have for you today are designed to help us think about how we can apply what we've learned about putting God first, no matter what, into our lives. So I'll ask a question, we'll have it on the screen for you, and then give you a chance to pause the video while you all discuss the question. When you're ready, hit play and move to the next question. Here we go, first question. Question 1. Have you experienced God's favor in your life at work, school, or in the community in a way that made you feel taken care of? If so, share your experience. All right, hit pause now. Okay, question 2. Have you ever been put in a situation where what God was asking you to do went directly against what someone in authority over you was asking of you? If you can't think of an experience like this, imagine your boss told you you couldn't go to church anymore or you'd be fired. How did that situation turn out? Was the glory of God revealed in the end? All right, pause the video here. Question 3, last one. How have you experienced God's protection? What did that do for your faith and or the faith of those around you? Okay, pause here. Well, I hope that was great discussion for all of you. As we think and pray about these tough ideas, know that it's part of God's refining and softening our hearts so that we can become more like Jesus and tell others about Him. That's our goal. Hey, thanks guys for hanging out with us for another week. I look forward to celebrating with you on Sunday, and I'm so excited about what God is doing through you and all our cell groups. Don't forget, you can catch up on our sermons and group videos on the Daniel page of our website. And let's keep reading through the book of Daniel together. We love you. We'll see you next week.